which means that you have to create propulsion, which means that so one of the good studies by Marin, who's in France, and his crew, which we're actually going to be validating, comes from that the best sprinters have more use of horizontal force, like that basically they have a greater efficiency of the percentage of the force that they produce moves them horizontally versus vertically. Makes sense. And that's just an efficiency. So many people have enough absolute force potential to run pretty fast. The problem is that they're biomechanically or structurally so broken that they cannot direct that force in a way that propels them forward. So there are two pieces to that. There's the structural integrity. Their structural integrity needs to be such that their pelvic floor can actually hold their pelvis in place so that their leg can move through range of motion without tipping back. And the other piece of that is biomechanically being in triple tuck. So in triple tuck, there are three. Your knee is tucked up, your heel is pulled back, and your toe is pulled up. So you're in hip flexion, knee flexion, and dorsiflexion. Triple tuck, 3 tucks. And the shin angle when you strike, so you strike under your body, but your shin angle needs to be closed. It can't be open at like 90 because wherever you push down with your shin angle is going to be where your body goes. So what happens when you have backside mechanics and you swing behind you is that leg loops through, opens up with a very large shin angle in front of you, and actually every time you strike in front of you, when you strike the ground, right, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So if I hit in front of me, where's the ground pushing me?
You hit in front of you?
Yeah.
Like if your foot goes like way in front?
So if my hips are here and I step here, I hit the ground here, where's the ground pushing me? Backward.
Back up.
Correct. No, yeah, backward.
Yeah.
So that means that it doesn't matter how much force I apply, it's just pushing me more
Pushing you
backward.
back.
So every time I step in front of me, I have a braking force. It actually stops me.
It makes sense. If you push
It pushes this way.
you explode
Yup.
forward.
So my foot goes behind me, backside, it loops up, strikes in front of me. The force, if my foot hits in front of me, the ground pushes me backward. I then have to stop myself, brace, pull over that leg with the hamstring.
That's the overextension.
And well, the overextension is, exactly, to the back.
Yeah.
So I pull here, I go over my leg,
And then you come
overextension, and then I swoop back up and I do it again. So we have this girl, Whitney, who I guess 2 years ago, she fractured her spine. She's a sprinter, fractured her spine because of backside mechanics. Because she was producing so much force and had so much leg swing behind her that she literally, from backside mechanics, fractured her spine. And they told, same thing, they told her she wouldn't be able to run. Same thing with, with Nick, like all these different things. And Matt, I wasn't there at the time, but Matt completely rehabbed her by fixing her backside mechanics and giving her all frontside mechanics. And they spent a year on this because she was so paranoid about getting hurt again that she backed it off. She was humble, and she just did the drills, like drills and drills and drills and drills and drills. And he completely repatterned her. And now she has such immaculate frontside mechanics, meaning like she runs all in front of her. But still, remember, running in front of you means what your legs are doing, not where you're striking. So your leg is moving in front of you, but you're striking under your hips to propel you forward. So it's not where you strike, it's what your leg's doing. Backside mechanics is when your legs are swinging behind you, but you actually are striking in front of you. So backside mechanics will mean striking in front, frontside mechanics will mean striking under and driving you forward. So you're propelling your hips forward. Anyway, she has such immaculate mechanics now, biomechanics, that she not only does she not take that force into her spine, it's transferred efficiently to propel her forward that she just qualified for Junior Olympics.
Wow.
So she went from being like a pretty top competitor. I mean, she was pretty good to begin with, but good is relative when you fracture your spine. And now she's out in, I forget which high school she goes out to, but somewhere in the Lake Travis area. But And now she's qualifying for Junior Olympics, and Matt took her there. And it's all this process. So Nick has to get two things together. We have to get his pelvic floor pulling up, his, everything being neutral, so he's not using his external musculature to hold it together. And then we just basically need to fix his backside mechanics, which, there you go. And so, but the whole point is that the mechanics become inextricable with the ability to hold yourself from the inside. If you're bracing so hard from the outside, you're going to distort the mechanics. Like, you won't be able to do it, period. It doesn't even matter. In a way, it's the same thing what I said to you about EMG. So EMG is electromyography, which is kind of like EKG, which measures the electrocardiogram or electromyogram. And so an EKG measures the electrical activity of your heart, the muscle of your heart, because your heart's a muscle. EMG measures the electrical activity of your skeletal muscles. And one of the things that I have a very high skepticism about EMG research, being I've also done EMG research and know it very deeply during my master's, and know the difficulty of getting reliable data, but also when they measure an exercise and say, during this exercise, the following muscles were, more active or less active, and so kind of honing in on what muscles work during what exercises. There's an assumption there that the position creates the activity and not the athlete, not the person. It's external driven. It's a measure that, like,
this is a bad position versus...
this is a good position, or this is a good exercise versus a bad exercise, but really isn't. This is a good human versus a bad human. But, like, it's really about what is the person turning on. If they have control, if they have the Bruce Lee ability, who in my opinion is probably the greatest proprioceptive athlete in the history of humankind, in terms of his ability to feel and control, he is the most control of anybody I think that's ever existed.
Yeah.
And when you have that sort of control and you can put pinpoint accuracy and turn on the muscles that you choose to turn on, and even bodybuilders have that to an extent, then are you really measuring the exercise, or are you measuring the bias of what the person can do? Because I can squat and use my hamstrings, or I can squat and not use my hamstrings. It looks the same. I can lunge and use my quads, or I can lunge and use my hams, right? Like, I mean, and it's not just a quad hamstring issue. It's a pelvic floor. You can set up for a squat, and you can use the glutes to create torque into the ground, and you can brace with your glutes, or you can brace with your pelvic floor, and you can totally change the pattern based on what you've turned on or turned off. So it's like there needs to be more research done into maybe teasing out this bias of, like, this person thinks about this, or maybe you do a number of exercises with a certain set of cues, with another certain set of cues. But it's going to be difficult to tease out, and that's what I went there to study. But politics always wins, and you don't always get to study as deeply as you want. But I was able to play around with it and do some, like, I could use, I mean, when you're in school, you have use of the lab. So I was able to use the lab and do some, behind-the-scenes research and play with some of my colleagues and, grad students, and also on myself. And I was finding that there is this, it does exist. Like, you can cue, and this is no mystery to someone who's been in the field, that you can give one cue and have an effect, and give another cue and have another effect. So if the person is thinking about one thing and uses a certain set of muscles, and is thinking about something else and using another certain set of muscles, doing the identical exercise, are we really measuring the exercise? Like, so maybe we need to stop worrying about the exercise and start looking at the integrity of the person.
Yeah. And I think, even listen to a doctor. He's like, don't do deadlifts ever. Don't ever do squats. It's bad for your knees. Don't do this. It's bad for this. And
it's not the bar's fault.
It's not the bar's fault. It's not the exercise. The exercise is never really bad. It's like, is the human being, like, structurally off, or are they structurally sound? And then beyond that, like, are they?
Logically?
Yeah. I mean, that's even. I think that's a powerful piece, like that you touched on today, and I think that's also missing on the field. Like this concept of mobility, right? Like mobilize. Where's the activation to support the new range of motion you've created? Right. I think that's a powerful piece. It's like, okay, you have this new range of motion, so what? Like, what is that going to do? Like, you can sit into a better position, but what's actually turning on to hold you in position?
And there's an assumption that just because you can get in that position, you'll get strong if you spend time there. And maybe you'll be able to hold the position, but you won't be able to necessarily hold it from a place that you want to hold it from. Just because you can get there doesn't mean that compensation doesn't exist. Just because you get there doesn't mean that you're not going to be fighting to stay there.
Yeah.
You know, and it has to come from the inside out. It has to. And I think that's the approach. I think that's the piece that I've added to the sprint world.
Yeah.
You know, the proper mechanics exist because those are, again, the external factors of physics.
Yeah.
And they exist. Like, position is position, and there are better biomechanical positions based on your levers and the human anatomy, and that's why it's called biomechanics. The mechanics is your human biology. But it's the same way as saying that you are just what you think is a collection of electrical impulses. But you take all the external impulses out and the tank, and I'm still there. I mean, you might say, well, it's just a collection of neurons firing. Is it really? You know, not when I feel so connected. I mean, in my belief, it's not. I mean, I think that anyone who listens to the Wellbeing Podcast is of the thought that there's something greater out there than just, and not just out there, inside, that's connected to outside. That's the sum. It's greater than the sum of the nervous system impulses. Mm-hmm. And there is that same piece that exists physiologically inside of us. There is a piece of this neurologic network and control and choice and mind connection and mind-muscle connection, and that is so much deeper than what the outside biomechanics just dictate on the surface. Mm-hmm. And that's what I want to bring to that sprint world, to say, like, hey, let's make this person a ninja. Like, I tell every athlete, like, you're not a football, like, there are players, right? Like, there are poker players, there are football players, soccer players.
Totally.
Players master skills. And it's necessary that you master your skills if you want to play anything. But in my mind, an athlete is a superior human being. And that is someone who has a ninja-like control. So I want to make a football athlete, but even more than that, I actually want to make a football ninja. I want to make someone who has... I want to give Bruce Lee the chance to get on a football field and learn the skills. Because you can't tell me that guy couldn't have learned anything. Anything. I mean, I don't know if have you seen the YouTube video of him playing ping pong with nunchucks? Mm-hmm. And there's some debate as to whether that's him or not, but regardless, it doesn't seem to be debate as to whether it's real. And that is legitimately the most jaw-dropping, amazing thing I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. Because he's playing two, like, high-level Chinese ping pong players, and he's playing both of them with a pair of nunchucks. And the type of ninja-like, of just complete and utter oneness with not just control over everything in his body, but oneness with the environment, to be able to translate that back and forth. But it starts from inside. It goes from the inside out. It starts inside of him and then emanates outward. And that's what I want to create in an athlete. And that's what I mean by well. I don't mean just like, hey, they're healthy. I'm talking transcending healthy to being at a state where it comes from inside of them and emanates outward. And I really want, as a part of the book that I'm writing, there to be this mental framework that it's like, this also matters to how you influence your team. Mm-hmm. Like, to who you are as a person.
That's the definition of mastery. Right? And it's funny that you're mentioning Bruce Lee, because I was telling Nick before you came in, I was like, dude, we have to make you like Bruce Lee. Woohoo! And he was just like, yeah, I can totally see that, because I have to go like deeper. I've never gone this deep. Even when I provided him, he was like, I've never had to think or put so much intention into this. But anyway, like
EMG can't measure intention.
No, it
right?
can't.
Like